Hello there everybody, it is me XFreezerBunny and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed building video. Okay, so today we're speed building a little house I'd like to call the Vampire Dollhouse. And this is a house that I built specifically to be used in my Sims 4 Vampires Let's Play, and of course it heavily uses all the stuff that came with the brand new stuff pack, The Sims 4 Vampires. Okay, so my new Let's Play is going to be very narrative driven. Like, there's going to be a lot of backstory, there's going to be a lot of motivation with the characters and stuff. So right now I'm currently in the process of establishing those backstories and making sure that we have a good strong narrative for the story, because usually when I do my LPs, it tends to be really like the Sims that I use in my LPs don't really have that much of a backstory. But for this one, it's all going to be about that backstory and how they're going to overcome that. Because it's going to be a lot of drama. It's going to be a lot of like betrayal and, you know, like just all that stuff. So it's going to be crazy and it's going to be very, very dramatic and it's going to be super exciting. So hopefully you guys will watch out for it. And yeah, it's going to be up really soon. I'm planning to speed build 2 lots specifically for that LP. We're speed building this one house, which is the one that we're speed building now, which is going to be kind of like the house that we're mostly going to be living in. And then towards the end of the LP, we are going to be moving into a much larger, much more palatial house. But yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and talk about the story right now because yeah, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but this house is going to be featured a lot. Like, this is going to be the house where we're going to be living and we're going to be spending most of our time in this house. So, yeah. Also, keep in mind that despite the fact that I call this the Vampire Dollhouse, it actually doesn't have much vampire themed objects in it. Like, there's not many coffins, there aren't any cobwebs, because for the story that I'm going with in my LP, yes, it's gonna have vampires, of course, but the vampires in my LP are newly turned vampires. You know, they are just starting off as, you know, creatures of the night. So, you know, they're not exactly you know, they're not exactly vampire pros, if that makes any sense. So yeah, this house has 2 bedrooms and no, this house has 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. There's 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, and there's an extra kind of bedroom on the basement. And yes, there is a basement. I never really do many homes that have basements in them. So it's quite rare for me to actually build something with a basement. And this one has a basement, not because it's specifically for a vampire, but I'm pretty sure that by the time you guys see the basement of this, you guys are probably gonna be pretty surprised, because it's not exactly what you would expect to see in this kind of house. So anyway, I actually call this Vampire Dollhouse because when I was looking for inspiration online, I looked up Victorian era dollhouses for some strange reason, and I saw this one, which is so beautiful. It had this like beautiful blue color, which I tried to replicate in this build, but we don't have any blue kind of siding here, so I just used some stucco instead. But this house is almost an exact replica of that one. So yeah, if you guys notice that there is a similarity here, am I saying to you guys that yes, I did try to replicate this one dollhouse as much as I can. There is one thing that I added specifically unique to this build, and that is kind of like the greenhouse. Over here on the side of the house, there's kind of like a room that has like all the really large floor to ceiling windows, and that is kind of supposed to be a greenhouse inspired by something that I recall from my childhood, which is actually Haunted Mansion. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, especially to you guys who are a little bit younger. But yeah, Haunted Mansion. It was I know Haunted Mansion from the movie, not exactly like the ride in Disneyland, but I love the movie. You know, it's a movie with Eddie Murphy. It was so funny, and I also really like the PS2 game that it came with. It's like one of the very first PS2 games that me and my brother played and finished. And we were really proud of myself, and we were really proud of ourselves because we were really young at that time, and playing video games when you're a kid is super hard because, you know, you don't really have that developed motor skills and stuff. It's been like a decade ago, so we've grown up since then. But I let me just tell you guys that my brother still plays. He still plays Haunted Mansion because it's so nostalgic and it's just such a fun game to play. So yeah. Anyway. The general aesthetic that I went for in this house is the Second Empire style, which is a style of Victorian architecture that kind of originated in France, but it's, you know, it's popular all over the world. I've seen Second Empire style architecture all over. Like, I've seen it in the United States. I've even seen it in like Argentina. So what's unique about the Second Empire style is that it usually has one tower, usually in the middle, and it also uses mansard roofs, which is a type of roof that is very French. You know, it originated in France, and it's kind of an iconic roof that you know, you see quite a lot in French style buildings. So yeah. Anyway, let me just enlighten you guys as to some stuff that's been happening to me personally. A lot of you guys actually noticed the fact that I have no voice or I am losing my voice. And you are right to be concerned because last week I went to see a doctor and I have some vocal cord problems. They don't quite know what it is yet, so I am going to a specialist in a couple of days to get my vocal cords checked. They did tell me that 98% of the chance it's like no big deal. So you guys, it's no big deal. Please don't panic. Please don't panic. And I kind of was holding off on telling you guys this because I really don't want to worry you guys whatsoever. But since I had to record this video before going to the doctor, I'm pretty sure many people would probably bring up the fact that my voice sounds terrible. But I just really wanted to record a video because, you know, I feel like I'm missing a part of me if I don't get this video up. You know, I worked really hard on it and, you know, I had so much fun building it and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. So for the interiors, you know what? So you guys, please don't worry. I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking steps to get this whole vocal cord problem fixed. So yeah, rest assured, everything will be fine. So anyway, I actually decorated the living room and the dining room kind of simultaneously because I don't know why. It was kind of like a similarly shaped room. You know what? The rooms are exactly the same in terms of the shape of them. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do these two rooms kind of like as counterparts of each other. And if you guys can see, there's a lot of detail that I put on like the bay windows. The bay windows, there's like an archway on either side of them, which is pretty cool. I used some columns from Get Together and some base game corbels, which turned out pretty cool. I used those in a bunch of my other builds, so yeah, it turned out really well. Also, you guys will notice that there's a lot of mismatched stuff here. Usually when I do builds, I kind of obsess about the fact that all the wooden stuff, I really want it to be like the same color. But in this case, since it got really mismatched because the vampires wallpapers didn't quite match the wood colors that the sofas and stuff came with. So I just settled for what I kind of felt looked okay. So yeah, also I did try to take it a little bit easy with how I furnished this, because this house was meant to be played on, so I don't want anything to be too, I don't want everything to be too distracting. I don't want things to be getting in the way and to obstruct the view and stuff when I'm doing my gameplay. So for the furnishing, it's actually like really, really it's quite spacious, if that makes any sense. There's like a lot of space, and there's a lot of space, and there's a lot of space for the Sims to move in, and they don't get stuck all the time. I love that super, super long rug, that runs through the hallway. I think that turned out really great. I like how, I really appreciate how they thought about, making things more versatile. And yeah, so this is where I started to experiment with the interior. At some point, I wanted to move the dining room, over here, like right next to this hallway, because I wanted to use like a really, really long dining table. Like, cause there's there's this cliche, and like, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but like in a lot of cartoons and in a lot of animes that I watch, like every time there's like a vampire house, they would like have this super, super long table, and there would only be 2 chairs on either end of them. Like, that is so cliche, right? That's like, there's this one part in the Princess Diaries where I think it was Princess Diaries 1, and Mia Thermopolis was meeting her grandmother for the first time, I think, and they had like, I don't know, they had breakfast or dinner or something at the palace, and they sat in like this really long table. Was that in Princess Diaries? I think it was. So anyway, I thought of that, but it just didn't work out. For some strange reason, it felt really cramped. So I decided to revert back to my original idea of making that rectangular room into the kitchen instead, which actually I really like the kitchen. It's really spacious. Once again, we have the mismatched wood, which me from like, I don't know, maybe a year ago would probably die because I hate mixed matched things. It's just not my style. But in this case, I was like, you know what? I'll deal with it. Cause it did turn out really good in the end. And since we had a lot of space in the kitchen, I made sure to include kind of like a breakfast area, just a little bit of a breakfast area, for a sim. For a sim or 2. You know what? I'm just gonna tell you guys. So for my LP, there are going to be 3 sims. 2 of them are going to be vampires, and 1 of them is going to be a human. Okay, so the human sim is probably the only person who is going to be using the dining room, and then the other vampire sims are going to be hunting out for their prey. And now that I think about it, I think it's a little bit weird calling this a vampire home and not having any coffins, but I really, really liked how the bedrooms turned out. It kind of, it turned out really well, and I believe that the vampires do not require a coffin to sleep on. I believe they're not required to use a coffin to sleep unless you choose it as like one of their weaknesses, I believe. I'm not sure. I really haven't delved that much into the gameplay as of yet, but hopefully, I'll be able to explore that. I don't really want to play vampires unless I'm recording, because I want all my reactions to be like genuine and stuff. So, we just finished furnishing kind of like the greenhouse area. Once again, it's inspired by like the Haunted Mansion, which has like a greenhouse on the side of it. I'm just like, yes. But yeah, our human sim, she is going to be a writer. Oh my gosh, I'm like spoiling a lot of it for you guys. Anyway, our human sim's gonna be a writer, and she's gonna be spending a lot of time at home, and she is also going to be like she is going to be planting a lot of plants. You know, she's going to be planting the new plants that came with vampires. You know, specifically the plasma fruit, which is the fruit that the vampires need if they don't want to eat humans. You know, if they don't want to drink from humans, then they will choose to drink plasma fruit instead. Otherwise, they'll die. But yeah, so definitely one of my vampires will be a good vampire. And that's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to spoil too much. So anyway, upstairs there are 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The bathroom for like the guests is located upstairs, so you know you don't have to worry about the guests like entering like one of the rooms and you know, just to use the bathroom. So there's not really, you don't really have to worry about that. But yeah, we are furnishing the bedroom for kind of my alpha female vampire, if that makes any sense. So she is really she's very kind of, I don't know, I imagine her character as like somebody who's really powerful, somebody who's really influential, and somebody who's not afraid to really be vocal about what she wants. You guys can see me try to incorporate a coffin, but it just looked really weird. So I'm just like, you know what? These beds are so gorgeous. I'm going to stick to them. But anyway, this bedroom is going to be for like her character. For this particular vampire, she's kind of like a sexual predator, you know, if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. But you know, she's basically like Samantha Jones from Sex and the City. I love Samantha. That's like her motivation. She wants boys. She wants to drink from them and also sleep with them. So when I was making her character, she originally had like I'm not sure, it was the romantic one where it wanted her to have like lots of romantic interactions and romantic interest one. But now that she's turned into a vampire, things are gonna change. So yeah, things are definitely gonna change. She'll definitely be a predator, but we'll see how her character develops as we move forward. So anyway, I love that rug. That rug over there reminds me so much of like Beauty and the Beast. It's just gorgeous. So yeah. I also stayed consistent with the red carpet. So once again, it doesn't exactly match up with the wallpaper, but I feel like the red carpet really unifies like all the spaces, you know, because you couldn't really notice it that much, but downstairs for the living room and for the dining room, those rooms, both of them also have red carpets. So yeah. Anyway, and there's a computer. There's no TV in this house, but there are computers on all the bedrooms because computers are super, super important. You know, like if you want to research, if you want to do some vampire research, you know, the computers are super important. So anyway, this bedroom is for my male vampire, and he is kind of like a timid, kind of quiet vampire. He really doesn't want to drink from humans. So he's kind of like the exact opposite of his sister. You know, he just wants to stay indoors and, you know, work on his hobby and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, he might have now that I think of it, I might give him like the woodworking skill or something. I feel like that would be interesting. There is no woodworking table in it though, so I might replace some items in his bedroom with a woodworking table. But I want him to be very driven by his hobbies. And not really as kind of over the top as his sister. You know, he's a little bit more calm, he's a little bit more conservative, and like I said, he is a good vampire, so he is going to be struggling a lot. He's going to be struggling a lot with what he's going to eat and with how he's gonna deal with his vampire instincts. But once again, I think it's gonna be super interesting to develop his story because, you know, it's another kind of layer to that whole vampire thing, and I think it's gonna be pretty interesting. So anyway, we are just figuring out what the basement's gonna look like, and I totally forgot to put curtains on our lady vampire's room, and we kind of need that because she is a vampire, you know, she will burn in the sun. So yeah, anyway, I also really didn't like the layout of our boy vampire's room, so I did kind of switch out like the items and stuff over there until I was comfortable with the layout. So anyway, we are working on the private bathroom for our alpha female vampires. So yes, of course, since she is our alpha female, she is going to have her own bathroom, and I felt like that was just proper, you know, because she is the girl, she is the sister, so she needs to have her own space for a bathroom, I think. So yeah, she gets this bathroom all for herself, so good for her. And here we go. I was really like debating like how I was gonna do this layout because the bedroom for our male vampire is such an interesting shape. And it's also such a difficult shape to like work around. So yeah, it was kind of like, what am I gonna do? I did put a fish tank though. I'm not sure if you're gonna see this. If I recorded it. I feel like I recorded it, but yeah, I will put a fish tank. It's like the graveyard themed fish tank, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this thing is so ironic. Like I had to put that. And oh my gosh, the bathroom sets that came with the Sims 4 Vampires game pack is amazing. I'm so excited for the new toilets. It's such a weird thing to be excited for, right? Toilets, but the toilets that came with vampires actually have like a new animation, and it's so awesome. I've always wanted this, especially, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know that I do a lot of themed builds. I do a lot of Victorian themed builds or historical themed builds, and having like a historical style toilet is just amazing. Over here downstairs towards the end of the hallway, there used to be a room here that was supposed to be like the guest powder room, but I changed it into just a backdoor exit kind of thing because at the back of this lot, there is a graveyard. Yes, there is a graveyard. I feel like graveyards on the backyard are just so typical of The Sims at this point. Like, I don't even know what version of The Sims popularized that idea, but ever since I can remember, there's always been a family or a household that had like this graveyard in their backyard. Like, it was nothing. Like, yeah. I feel like there are regulations in real life that prevent people from having graveyards for like sanitary reasons and stuff, but in this case, there's going to be a lot of story elements that are related to the graveyard. There's going to be 3 Sims that are going to be buried in the graveyard. I'm not going to tell you who they are specifically, but yes, there's going to be 3 of them, and their deaths kind of like play a very important role to the story of this LP. So it's a lot of backstory, and I had weeks to prepare for it. So yeah, I didn't want this to be just an ordinary playthrough. I really wanted this to be very narrative driven, to really bring out the characters, you know, very narrative, very character driven. And I've been playing a lot of video games that are very kind of narrative / character driven. Oh my gosh, like Final Fantasy 15. Oh my gosh, a lot of people don't like it, but I personally love Final Fantasy 15. So yeah, I'm using, actually, most of the landscaping, I used only items from The Sims 4 Vampires. I did try to incorporate some other type of plants, that came with other packs and stuff, but none of them were working. So I just used that fern and that dead bush and then a couple of dead trees. You guys will see me have a lot of difficulty with trees, actually, because I did want to have some variety, at least with the trees. I wanted to have like some variety, but I ended up using it, I think, just one tree because the other trees, they just didn't work. Visually, they just didn't work for me. So yeah. And yes, by the way, for this build, the graveyard is going to have fake gravestones, the ones that came with vampires. But for my LP, it's going to have real gravestones with real Sims. And I'm also going to be putting some plants actually in like the planter boxes. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have I'm not gonna have like the plasma fruit because I'm gonna figure out how to get those, but definitely some plants like roses and tomatoes and stuff like that. I will be planting them because I don't know. Like I said, one of my Sims is going to be a writer, so we are not gonna have many opportunities to make money in this LP other than writing. So I feel like planting crops and maybe stealing some things from, I don't know what jobs could vampires could do, but like I said to you guys earlier, I'm probably gonna have one of my vampire guys do the woodworking skill. So they're gonna be spending a lot of time in this house. The only time that we're gonna go from one house to the next is probably when we're trying to eat some people. So that's gonna be super exciting. So anyway, we are now trying to place some trees, and once again, they just did not work for me for some strange reason. Like, I don't know, they just didn't match the house and the way the house looks. So I just went with those other trees that I used earlier. I just enlarged them and basically, just stuck with them because they did look okay. I mean, yeah, I really wanted to have some other trees, but none of it worked at all for me. So yeah, and I'm also kind of messing up the landscaping a little bit more, kind of making it a little bit more disheveled and a little bit more kind of unkempt, if that makes any sense. Okay, so there are also going to be some ivy, which, oh my gosh, I mentioned this when I was overviewing the Vampires game pack, but the ivy reminds me so much of Sleeping Beauty. Like when the prince was coming to rescue her, he had to like go through these ivy things. It was so beautiful. Also, I talked a lot about the story, and obviously the house is not abandoned. It's not an abandoned house. It's not a dilapidated house. People have lived here, and people are currently living here. So it's not like the house that you expect for the Vampires game pack, where it would be like all abandoned there, and it would have a lot of cobwebs. People live here, and some people who live here have only just been recently turned into the vampires. So anyway, this is the surprise, and it is the basement. And unlike the rest of the house, the basement is actually like really, really modern, really kind of bohemian. And that also has a lot to do with who exactly sleeps in this basement. And obviously, she is not a vampire. She is my writer Sim, and she found herself in the situation where she lives with vampires, so she's dealing with it on her own. So this is her own personal space, and I thought that it would be so interesting to give her the basement instead of the usual upper floors, because she is human. She's kind of like a tough chick, if that makes any sense. Like, she knows how to speak her mind. She knows how to fight for what she wants. She has a lot of things to say. That's why she is a writer. So so this is kind of her space for her to just express herself and to live her life without having to deal with her supernatural housemates. Okay. So this particular space over here on the basement is actually very reminiscent of another speed build that I did, which is of another bohemian themed speed build, which I'm currently putting on hold because the bohemian themed speed build was supposed to come up a while ago, but there's been so much stuff that came out. You know, we had toddlers, so I had to build a nursery, like preschool for them. There's also like vampires, so I have to do vampires. So, you know, a couple of speed builds are on hold, but this one in particular takes a lot of inspiration from that. And I just realized that I did not put a closet in this room, but whatever. There is a mirror in the toilet, so at least that's that. But anyway, the reason why it looks like I'm speeding through this is because that pretty much everything that I used here, I also used in that bohemian themed build. So yeah. And I'm just putting some clutter, just making sure that everything looks kind of randomly placed, nothing too crazy. I also really want to have that postcard corkboard. So cute. She is a writer, so she's going to be spending a lot of her time in front of the computer. So definitely we're going to be asking for some postcards and stuff, but it looks like that is going to be it for this build. Let's go ahead and cut into the screenshots of the floor plans. By the way, the build traits for this house are, it's a vampire, it's a certified vampire base. I don't know what it's called specifically. It has gremlins and it has great soil. Okay, guys? So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this part up right here and get some rest from my voice, and hopefully nothing's wrong with it when I come see the specialist in a couple of days. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this speed build. Once again, please don't forget to hit that like, favorite, and subscribe button if you had fun watching this video, because it really does help out the channel a lot. Okay? You all have an awesome day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.